What is up, guys? Dr. Shepherd here, and yes, I am coming at you in a t-shirt because we have gotten that close. Like, we have taken this relationship to the next level, and I am just going to be myself in front of you. Actually, mostly I was just too lazy to change out of my t-shirt, so there you go. Anyways, speaking of lazy, we're going to talk about motivation today and why it's stupid. So you might think motivation is like the holy grail of like getting stuff done. And if you want to get stuff done, you need motivation. And if you're not getting stuff done, it's because you lack motivation. But in reality, motivation is actually pretty unreliable and oftentimes not all that helpful. So let's talk about why that is. And let's talk about what you can do instead to move you closer to your goals and to being the person that you want to be. All right, so motivation, not so great, like I mentioned. Think about the last time that you tried to make like a positive change in your life. So for many people, they might try to make positive changes in like their health or lifestyle, and oftentimes they'll rely on motivation for that. So most people start out with a lot of motivation to make these changes, and it lasts for maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of days, if you're like me, a couple hours, and then it's gone. And you end up reverting back to the same old thing that you were trying to change. Motivation is super unreliable, so it depends on a lot of different factors. External factors like whether you slept the night before, whether you're hungry, whether you have the tools you need to do the job properly. And motivation also changes along with internal factors. So are you bored of the change that you were trying to make? Are you irritated at something totally unrelated? Are you happy at the moment, sad, whatever? Or maybe you're just hangry.
I'm f***ing starving, Swin! What did you eat today? I ate nothing! Nothing!
Maybe that's an internal and external factor that's influencing your motivation. So the bottom line is motivation, like I said, is unreliable. And it's really not a great way to make a change that is gonna stick with you long term. So if motivation isn't the way to go, what can we do instead? I have two major tricks that I use to make positive changes in my life. And these really helped me go from somebody who wasn't really able to accomplish that much in high school and, felt like I was floundering all the time and not getting any closer to my goals, to being someone who can set a goal and just tackle it. And I think these principles are really important and also really nuanced. So let me know if you guys are interested in this by hitting like and commenting below, and we can talk more about this stuff. So what are my two keys to making progress towards my goal? Well, the first thing is to build small habits over time. And the second thing is to build my own self-control. So let's talk about each of those for just a moment. Building small habits over time is actually one of the most proven ways to affect change that lasts for a long time, that doesn't just rely on motivation and doesn't disappear once the motivation is gone. So what are habits anyways? They are automatic actions that occur in response to contextual cues. So that's a lot of big words, but basically you're used to X coming before Y. So whenever you see X, you know that Y is going to follow. So to give you a more concrete example, washing your hands after you use the bathroom. Hopefully you do that. If not, please leave. Gross. But if you're like most people, you have been conditioned to know that when you go to the bathroom, you're going to wash your hands afterwards. So the washing your hands is the habit, and the using the bathroom beforehand is the contextual cue. So it's important to understand that this is how habits work, because we want to take advantage of the way that they're set up so we can kind of use this and shape our own habits. So to make an effective habit change, you need to first make sure that you are clear on what your goal is and what actionable habit you can take to get closer to that goal. So for the purposes of this video, let's use the habit of exercise. So exercise is something that you'll hear me say time and again has been proven to improve our mental health and obviously our physical health as well. So it's a great habit to build if it's not something that you're already used to doing. So we're clear on our goal, right? We want to exercise in order to improve our physical health. So what habit do we want to build in order to start building a habit of exercise? Well, maybe we want to start a habit of running. So we have our goal and we have our actionable habit. Now, we want to shrink our habit into the most manageable, small, bite-sized piece that we possibly can. And there are a couple of really good books on this. One of the most recent ones that I read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. I thought it was really good, and it really breaks down this process of why it's so important to start really small with your goals and how you can better do that. But overall, the idea is that your brain is lazy and it kind of seeks to maintain homeostasis, to not really do anything new, to kind of stick with what's safe, what's comfortable, what requires the least amount of effort. So if you pick a habit that is going to require a lot of effort, your brain's going to poop out on it pretty quick. So if you say, I'm going to run a 5K every day,
it's definitely a no for me, dog.
You might get it done for like the first couple days, but pretty soon you're going to be talking yourself out of it. So instead, you want to figure out a way that you can make that habit really, really tiny so your brain thinks that it's not a lot of extra effort. And then what you do is add to that habit slowly over time. So for our example, maybe the habit would be initially just putting on my running shoes and stepping outside the door. I'm not even running yet, but it's a habit that's going to get me closer to my goal. Once you do that habit for long enough that it becomes second nature and it becomes very easy for you, you can add the next step. Get it? Step. Which might be walking down your driveway. Really important to start small if you want the habit to be sustainable over the long term. All right, so next you want to set that contextual cue. So remember we said the habit is hand washing and the contextual cue is going to the bathroom beforehand. So there's something that triggers in your mind, okay, I need to do my habit now. So you really need to link your habit with something that you do every day or very frequently, and something that is clear and concise as to when it happens and how it happens. So I'll give you an example of a good contextual clue and a maybe not so good contextual clue. So for exercise, a great contextual clue might be when I get up in the morning. So your alarm goes off, you turn your alarm off, you press snooze 83 times, just kidding, don't do that. And you get out of bed, and then your new habit is to put your shoes on and walk out the door. That's a clear contextual cue. You know every day when I wake up, this is what's happening. An example of a not so good contextual cue that I have made the mistake of using before is, for example, if you don't have a very predictable work schedule, and like for me, there are a lot of days when I don't have a lunch break. So maybe setting your goal to walk outside of your office during your lunch break to do your run or build your habit of running, probably not the best idea because it's unreliable. Your brain doesn't know when to expect it or how to expect it or what to do when it happens. And then finally, in order to build habits, it's really important to keep track of your habits. So writing them down especially is a great way to keep track. It kind of helps you build a streak of your habit that you can get a visual reminder of, and it can actually be really encouraging and motivating to see that streak build over time. So if you build these small habits and you make these small changes, you don't need motivation because the thing that you want to do, your goal, is now on autopilot after building these small changes over time. All right, so the second way that I make progress towards my goals without having to rely on very unreliable motivation is by practicing self-control. So I used to have this weird idea that self-control was like a limited thing. Like you only had a certain amount of self-control, and once you used it all up for the day, like you were done. I'm not really sure where I got that from, but the research definitely doesn't support that idea. So what it actually shows is that self-control is a lot like a muscle, and it's something that you can work on and build up over time. So how do you strengthen your self-control? It's kind of exactly what you would imagine. You practice doing things that you don't want to do. And again, like with habit change, you want to start really small. So you don't want to pick something like push yourself to run a marathon when you haven't gotten off the couch in a year. Not a good idea. Also, probably not going to be that healthy for you. But instead, what you want to do is pick really small ways that you can exercise that muscle of self-control. So a better example would be if you don't feel like exercising, notice that and do 5 jumping jacks. Or if there's something that you just find frustrating and generally don't enjoy, push yourself to do it for a few minutes. So for example, maybe you're not a crossword puzzle person. Just push yourself to do a crossword puzzle or set a timer, do it for a certain amount of time, because what you want to teach yourself is that you don't care what your mind says about whether or not it wants to do something. You're gonna do it anyways. It's basically teaching you mind over matter that, okay, mind, you can bitch and moan all you want about not wanting to do this, but we're gonna do it anyways. Now, I have been successful in building an exercise habit already. So one way that I like to incorporate building self-control into my exercise habit is by choosing to do a workout that's slightly harder than the one that I initially planned, or run for slightly longer, or add a little bit more weight to my barbell. So all of these things seem pretty tiny, but if my brain's telling me, you can't lift that, you need to go 5 pounds lighter, I can say, okay, brain, I hear you, I respect that, but I'm gonna do it anyways. That can serve you so well in your life because, again, your brain is trying to keep you safe. It's trying to keep you comfortable. It's trying to maintain homeostasis. Its number one priority is survival, which is great. Like, no problem with that. I appreciate that. But in having those priorities, your brain is designed to keep you from doing anything that's gonna make you uncomfortable. So you want to learn that discomfort is actually okay. And you want to be able to override that desire for comfort when you want to do something new or scary or big or difficult. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. There are a lot of other ways that we can talk about making progress towards your goals. Again, most of them are not going to involve motivation because it's so unreliable and it's just not going to be there all the time. But hopefully this is a good start. So practice building small habits over time and practice exercising your self-control. And getting those two things down will make a huge difference in your ability to do hard things, to get things done, to do difficult things that you don't want to do. And honestly, that's usually what's holding us back from achieving our goals. The constant struggle between, I just want to lay on the couch and eat Cheetos all day, and I want to win a Pulitzer Prize from a book that I wrote while I was running a marathon. You can do it, but you got to build the proper habits and you got to get used to being uncomfortable and doing things anyways. So if you aren't already, please subscribe, drop me a comment, let me know if you like this video, and if you want to learn more about how to achieve your goals. All right, thanks guys.